your cowboy pal, old Jack Spade. Leather's strong, leather's true. He's got a howdy just for you. Howdy, you two parts. Howdy, you two.
Howdy, you two parts. Jack Spade back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today, we're going to use some veg tan leather, and I've got it cut down into a strip that's a 1/2 inch wide by approximately, I'd say 5 feet, 5.5 feet long. And then I've got a snap hook hardware for one end. We're going to make a handle for the other end, and we're going to make a small dog leash. So come on in and let's get started. All right, so again, I've got this snap fastener here. Very inexpensive, couple bucks maybe at the most. You can buy those anywhere, Hobby Lobby, hardware store. And then I've got some nice, probably 9-ounce veg tan leather here. And what I want to do is I'm going to use my hand crank Chinese sewing machine today. Instead of rivets, I'm going to stitch this. And I want to put a rounded or a semi-rounded edge on it on the ends, but I don't want it perfectly rounded on the ends because I just want kind of a little rounded corner. So I'm going to use a bigger rounded punch so that I just get, and I'll show you what I'm talking about as I shoot that off onto the floor. And I can compare those two for you. And I went ahead and beveled the finished edges, not the back. I didn't bevel the back, just the finished edges. And that's all I did. I just beveled it. I didn't burnish it. I'm going to leave it rough. But here's what I was going for on the rounded edge. So you can see all I'm doing is just knocking the points off. Just enough to make it look like a finished edge instead of that rough cut straight look. So I'll do the same thing on the other end. Get that little piece out of the way. So now I've got two finished ends. They look much, much better than just that straight cut, that rough tip. So let's go ahead and I'm going to put some dye on this. And I'm not sure exactly. Let's look and see what we've got here. I've got some acrylics and I've got a gel stain, translucent gel stain that's walnut in color. And I think that's what I'm going to use. So let's get a piece of cardboard up here. Wow, that's a new one. Haven't used this one yet. Now let's put a little bit of that gel stain. I've got some lint-free cloths, towels, and I am, instead of using a wool dauber, I buy these little sponge brushes at Hobby Lobby. They're very cheap. You can buy a whole pack of them for like $1 or $1.99, and you get several of them. And they're one trick ponies. You know, I use them, throw them in the trash. So let's experiment a little bit with this gel. And this is not the gel like the Fibings gel that we used in the last video. This is just some acrylic gel that you get I got this at Hobby Lobby, and it was $1.99. So let's see how this works on this bare leather. I'll squirt some of that into a clear container, and let's get us a set of gloves on, because I'm going to assume, since this is a stain, that if I get it on my skin, it's going to stain my skin also. So I don't want to walk around with stained fingers for a week when I can put on a very inexpensive pair of protective gloves. And these things have always been very reasonable until COVID hit. Then you couldn't find them. And if you could find them, they were outrageous. They went up about 4 times, 5 times in price. So I'm going to dip a little bit of that gel on that sponge. And let's put some of that stain on there. And we'll put it on the edge as well. I'm not concerned about getting too much on there. I want to make sure it's covered good. I'd rather get too much than not enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one little section here, and let's see what the results are. And it looks like it's covering very good. I'm going to do both sides. It's a nice color. Again, this is walnut. That's what they're calling it. Make sure that it's covered fully on the edges, on the end, and on both sides. Now I'll take my dry cloth and let's go ahead and do both sides and the edge. And again, if you need a little more, put a little more on there. On that unfinished, that rough side of the leather, you know, when you rub it with a cloth, you can get that grain moving on there. So sometimes you may need to give that a second coat. And I'm just rubbing that in, not pressing real hard. This stuff seems to dry pretty fast. And there's the look. So it does give it a little color. You can definitely see the color compared to the natural. So we'll see how that continues as I work this down. Again, this is about about 5.5 foot long. And I've already learned, as quickly as this dries, I've already learned to do the finish side first, then go to the edges and the back. So this is the first time I'm using this on a project. I normally just use a die, but I wanted a little bit something different on this. So let's lightly rub those edges. And that's a real nice color on that finished side. A little darker on the unfinished side, and you can see the difference there. And definitely darker on the edge, but it looks really good. And probably what I'll do is once I let that dry, I'll put my sheen on that finished side, and that'll really make it pop with that lighter walnut color on there. So we'll try that. We'll see what kind of effect we get with that. And you notice I just kind of keep flipping my towel as I'm doing that finished side so that I get a nice even coating of that. And I can keep working my way down the edge on both sides or both edges. Try to keep it up on my workspace here. It's so long, it makes it a little more difficult. Then I can get to the back. And you notice I'm going in several different directions as I wipe this on. So almost like an X pattern back and forth instead of just a straight back and forth, kind of going at an X pattern. And that's just to see if I can get better coverage, which it looks like it is giving me a nice even coverage if I do that. So as I wiped that off, the excess off, it appears to be drying fairly quickly. So I'll continue, and it looks like I'm going to have to put a little more in there. And I'm probably wiping off as much as I'm putting on, if not more. But I want to make sure that my coverage is good. Again, kind of going in that X pattern. I really like the grain look that it gives. I'm going to show you one more time in the camera, and let's see if you can pick up on that grain that it's bringing out. Yeah, you can see it there. So it's making that really pop. Now, because of the size, the thickness of this leather, and the width that I cut it at, remember I cut it at a 1/2 inch. Because of that, I would not use this for a large dog. It might be fine, but I don't know if I'd trust it or not with a large dog that could pull pretty strongly. Small, medium-sized dog wouldn't be too concerned about it. But not so sure I'd want to chance it on a pit bull, Rottweiler, or Burmese mountain dog, or Great Dane, or something like that. Something large, strong. Okay, so I've got one last little spot here to do. And again, trying to make sure I get 100% coverage. That's why I'm doing that X pattern. You could do a figure 8 motion, just something that's not straight up and down or straight back and forth. And again, so far, my favorite part of this is how it really makes the grain and the leather come out. And this is not dye, this is acrylic gel. Very inexpensive. I think that container, as I said earlier, was $1.99. And as you can see, it goes pretty far. All right. So I'd like, to be honest with you, I'd like to do a belt, personal belt in this. That would really be sharp. So let's let this sit and let it dry, and then I'm going to come back with some sheen and we'll see what we get out of that, and we'll do a comparison. I'll be right back. Alright, so I've let that sit for a few minutes, and I'm just going to take some Vibings leather sheen protectant. I'm going to put it right on my cloth. It's a lint-free cloth, and I'm going to put it on here pretty liberal. And let that sit on there. And then I'll take a microfiber towel. Let's just lightly buff that. And let's see what we get. Here is without sheen, and here's with. You can definitely tell the difference. Let's see if we can put those up against one another and see the difference. Yeah, you can definitely tell the difference, which one has it, which one doesn't. So I am going to go ahead and continue to do the remainder of this. And again, I'm putting that on there pretty liberally. And very light pressure. Just a light buffing. Look how shiny that is. Turned out so nice. So let's continue on here. And again, I'm just putting it on the finished side of the leather. Not putting it on the unfinished side or the edges. And once you get down toward the end here, number one, this thing's starting to get a little slick and long to control. Now we can slide it down and finish it. Again, I'm putting it on there. You could probably see how thick it looks on there. And it is a liquid. All right, so that's all buffed out. We can get rid of this, get that out of our way. I think it's safe to take my gloves off, get them out of the way, and let's go ahead and mark this for our hardware. And again, I'm going to sew this on my Chinese hand crank stitching machine. So I'm going to give you an idea how much. 2 inches. I'm going to fold over 2 inches there on my hardware, and we'll stitch down probably an inch. We'll make this to where it's nice and free. It's not going to be tight on here to where it can't move. So I'm going to set you guys up over by the stitching machine, and then I'll bring you back. All right, so I'm going to put the majority of this back behind here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to stitch right on the edge of my presser foot and see if I can't follow that. Now I'm going to leave that down, leave my needle down, raise my presser foot. I'm going to twist this just a bit, put my presser foot back down. I'm going to do 2 stitches, lift my presser foot, and I'm going to turn this whole thing around, put my presser foot back down, and I'm going to follow the other edge back. And I'll do the same thing. I'll lift my presser foot, twist it 90 degrees, now I'm going to turn this thing 180 degrees. You can turn the whole head, so I can go back the other direction and lock that in. So it doesn't have a reverse button on it, but you can turn the head around. So we'll pull some of this thread here, and sometimes you have to get that hand crank where it'll stay up. We can pull that out, and then we can cut that excess off. Now, I have acquired a new little tool, and I'm going to cut this off to where it leaves about 1/8 of an inch of thread. I'll give you an idea. That's what it ended up looking like. So it did a pretty good job, nice and strong. But I've acquired a inexpensive little tool And all it is, where I used to use a long lighter, it's this little torch. And it's very quick. You don't want to leave it on there very long to burn those cut ends, those threads. So it did a nice job. And again, if you look these up online, watch some videos about these. They call them, you'll see cheap Chinese shoe repair machine or cheap Chinese leather hand stitcher or whatever. I've bought some heavy duty needles. It works fine. You have to keep it lubricated, but it does fine. It's not a production machine, but for small stuff like this, it works really good. It's a little quicker than hand stitching, obviously. So I'm going to go to the loop for my handle, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure it fits in my hand, or I can put my hand through it in case I want to do that. So, and I've got pretty good sized hands, so I know if my hands will fit through there, then probably most would. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the 1 inch approximately. And turn it. I'll go 3 this time. Let's see what that does. We'll turn it again. Turn it one more time. And finish it. And we'll pull some excess thread out of there so I can cut it. This one didn't look as pretty as the other side, and it is black thread, but that's all I have. But it did a good job as far as doing the fastening. So that's nice and tight. It goes all the way through. Makes a nice, sturdy handle. So I'm going to move back over to the bench, and I'll bring you over there. Alright, so the stitching turned out pretty good. Again, it's black thread, but that's all I had in that machine. I need to buy some different colored threads, but it looks okay. The stitching turned out great. It's nice and strong. It's going to do what it needs to do as far as taking your dog for a walk or whatever it is you're going to use it for. So I like the gel, the acrylic gel. I like what it does for the grain. So it turned out good. It dries fast. Putting the sheen on it does make it look just that much better. So you can see how that really shines in the light. So nice leash. So a nice, quick, inexpensive leash. I don't know how much it would cost you to go out and purchase a nice leather dog leash, but I'm sure it isn't cheap. So I don't know. I've probably, as far as money, materials, I probably have maybe $3 or $4 in it, and not a lot of time. So inexpensive to make, fairly quick. It ends up being, I'd say approximately, right at 4.5, 5, probably closer to 5 foot tall when it's finished. So a project that could be done in a short amount of time. Again, I tried that acrylic Hobby Lobby walnut gel, and let me show that to you a little closer. And this is what it looks like. It's called Gel Stains Walnut Translucent Stains, it says. And there you see $1.99. So very inexpensive. It's the same company that I buy their acrylic paints. Same company that makes these acrylic paints. So check that out if you'd like. Pretty inexpensive. Seems like do a nice job. We'll see how it holds up. Should hold up great in the weather with the sheen on it. So appreciate you coming along. Appreciate you watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. I would appreciate it. And as I always say, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.
Now like old Jack Spade will say, don't forget before you ride away. Like, share, subscribe, keep the trail alive. I'll see you in the next one, parts. Till then, keep riding hard.